Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Montmanex.
We're just two Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by giving our 2 cents on the weekly film releases.
Whether it's the cute romantic comedy,
or the latest cult classics,
from the little-known indies and docs,
to the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all, $1 at a time.
And people ask me, why do you risk death? For me, this is life.
Welcome to New York. Anything to declare?
I'm going to hang a high wire between the 2 towers of the World Trade Center and work on it.
Good luck.
No matter where I was going or what I was doing, I was always searching, looking for the perfect place to hang my wire.
Whoa.
I need you to help me pull this off. I got just the guys. Now it starts.
Come on, make it snappy. I'm in a red zone.
I'll figure out how to get the wire across. I think we should wait.
No!
This is extremely illegal, not to mention dangerous.
So, this is officially the earliest we've ever recorded an episode.
Technically. For wide release, anyway.
Have we? I don't think we've done one in the AM before, or like not daytime AM anyway.
Oh, you mean, yeah, like as far as morning? No.
Yeah.
This is, this is a first.
It's pretty weird. I think it's like when people probably actually do podcasts.
Yeah, this is like the first. I feel still a little groggy. I'm not hopped up in as much caffeine.
No, I mean, I was awake last night when you texted me. It's just I was watching stupid YouTube videos and stuff, and I totally just, because I leave my phone on vibrate, I didn't hear it at all. I was like, oops, and I felt like calling you. And I was like, if I just went to sleep in the last 40 minutes and someone called me, I'd be pretty pissed. So
yeah, I was like just really tired after that point too.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Anyway, we're here though.
Yeah, it's not about sleeping patterns and stuff like that. It's about the walk.
Yep.
Pretty interesting movie.
Yeah, I had quite a journey getting there too.
Well, we're not getting there.
Getting back, but
getting back. Getting back is more like from what you were saying last night. You know, that's kind of your problem with LA anyway. So
that's always
my car.
That's always a journey. Oh, come. Well, hey, I helped save your car though.
Yeah. No, I got no hard feelings.
All right. Yeah, though. Okay, so the walk, probably, even though it's October right now, probably one of the better hyped spectacles that's not based on a franchise or any. I mean, basically, most hyped to death experiences, I think, of the year. You know, every time there's something in the marketing, they really push the IMAX 3D label. So,
oh yeah, they did the same thing for Everest too. But yeah, this has been known for what, about a year or so now?
Yeah, the trailer came out like last Christmas, I think.
Yeah,
and, they were really pushing the 3D in that. Speaking
of that trailer, the 3D in that teaser was better than everything in the film. I feel. I
think it's a different teaser. Like it sets a really different tone than that scene when it's actually in the movie, and that typically does happen with teasers, and that's why I'm kind of more inclined to say, oh, well, you know, the teaser's better than that one scene. And yeah, this is kind of another case of that. It's just the use of the sound, you know, the music at that point, just the sense of awe that you feel.
But still, when Philippe gets to New York and he puts his chin on the building, they could have easily used that same exact shot, and it would have worked really well and would have been powerful. They didn't use it at all. It was made strictly for the teaser, it seems like.
Oh, well, I mean,
ascent up the building, that real scary, like, put your gut, like, in your stomach feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's so well done the way that it is with the sound, too. Just like the wind picks up. Yeah, and that is great placement for that's great placement for his directing credits, too, while he's doing that. But
yeah.
Most intense thing than anything in the movie? No, I don't think so. The actual walk itself was pretty fucking crazy, I gotta say.
I was kind of out of the movie, and we talked about this at the bar after the screening, but the way it started with, you know, having the same framing structure as the documentary, with JGL breaking the fourth wall and talking to the camera probably like on average every 10-15 minutes, depending on where the film was. It reminded me throughout that he didn't die, and so I felt that the walk itself was a little anticlimactic.
I don't know. I mean, going in and knowing history at that point, like there's never really moments where I expected him to die. And in the back of my mind, though, I wasn't thinking that, because when he's on the actual walk and you just get that feeling of vertigo, and for me anyway, when I'm watching something like that, I'm not thinking like, in my head trying to outsmart it and go like, oh, I know he's going to die, because you're just really, the only thought that's going in my head while I'm watching that is just like, oh shit, what happens if this goes wrong? And, I just got really, really tense as I watched it, even though I'd seen the documentary. I knew what was going to happen. It's still really, really fucking frightening just to look at. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a fear of heights, but, it is very vertigo-inducing, so much so to the point where, I mean, did you hear about this? Even this movie's making people throw up.
That's weird. I seriously, I wasn't affected by the 3D.
Wow.
No, really.
Oh,
I was, like, I didn't not enjoy the scenes or anything, but I was just sitting there, and it was like any other movie. I didn't get much 3D from this. I think though there was like one moment, like something fell off one of the buildings towards the camera, and I moved in my seat. But other than that, I didn't. Like, there was some really cool stuff going on, especially with writing or looking at a piece of paper and having the perspective on the other side of the paper with like that grainy effect that they put on the film, which looks really cool. But for the most part, I thought, I mean, I'm sure it looks a lot worse on 2D, but I didn't think that this was necessarily worth the money for the 3D experience.
I think it's really just comes down to, as far as 3D for the walk itself, the rest of the scenes, they don't really, there's nothing that really just says outright, like, you have to look at this, except for the ground shots when you're looking up at the World Trade Center, and that's, like, visually, that's just kind of a promise of, like, okay, by the time you get up there, it will be worth it, and for me, it was. Some of the best 3D experiences for me, they always just consider, like, height as a factor. How to Train Your Dragon, those heights, those flying sequences, like, I got an intense vertigo from. So I think really, like, that's probably the most effective just gimmicky way of using 3D that'll work for me. But I don't think that makes it any worse. I think just it absolutely looked incredible.
No, it wasn't a bad movie.
Yeah.
And for those out there, we went to the Chinese TCL Theater, aka what used to be the Grauman's out in Hollywood for this, and Steve's leaving the state in a couple of days.
Yeah, I had to get a taste of what laser projection was like, which it was cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. The glasses were a lot cooler. They looked almost like IMAX branded sunglasses. They had these, they weren't polarized, but they had mirrored lenses. And if you looked at them when the film wasn't on, you could only see out of your left eye. It was really bizarre. Like, they definitely were stolen.
I mean, it wasn't, when they're showing 2D trailers, they can only play it out of one lens.
Yeah, well, but still, like, I thought it was, like, really cool. Like, it was, I definitely wanted one. I wanted to keep my pair.
Yeah, someone I think tried walking out with it in there.
Is that what is that what the metal detector was?
Yeah, did you see that? It was beeping right in front of us when someone else left.
But they didn't get stopped, or maybe they did when we kept on walking. I don't know.
There were ushers right there. But
interesting theater. The theater experience was better than the film itself for me.
Was that your first time there?
Yeah, it was my first time there. So the architecture and the ceiling itself, there's like, it wasn't a chandelier per se, but it was like a really big lighting fixture on the ceiling with these wood carved, and looking over and seeing the opera box seats, and
it's a movie palace.
Our seats reclined like to an extreme rate, like recliner status. Like, you could really get back in that chair.
I don't even think you can control how far back. Like, once you sit back, like, which, you know what, it works.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah, when the movie started, it wasn't a problem actually at all. But at first, it seemed like, whoa, am I going to be looking at the ceiling the whole time?
No, it was pretty good. I mean, besides that stupid hand railing,
I got over it actually.
I kind of got over it, but there was like certain scenes where the camera would, like, the focal the thing of focus was kind of where that railing was,
keep
and
in
then I got
mind,
this.
I'm
really,
taller than you, so
yeah, but
yeah.
I got the, like this really cool and really bizarre effect where it seemed like something was coming out of the screen, and then I was like, oh, it's just the railing. It was pretty cool like the first or second time, then I got over it. I was like, you motherfucker. Just because people can't trip. But yeah, back to the movie. I mean, this is known between us, just to reiterate to our audience. I tried to watch Man on Wire right after it won the Oscar. It was on Netflix. And I fell asleep about halfway through it. I don't know why. I think it was right around the point where he steps on the plank and the nail goes through his foot. It was somewhere around there. And so I was pretty familiar with the setup and the story and the backstory and all that. And so a lot of the film for me was just kind of treading the water, and it did a pretty good job. JGL, surprisingly, with the contact lens and the hair and walking from tower to tower, he did a pretty good job with his voice. It wasn't too annoying.
It was at first, right away, it just sounded off-putting, but I think, he got the mannerisms right, and it really worked in the sense of, it really felt like, I remember watching the documentary, I haven't seen that since it was in theaters.
It's
and
still
on
Netflix.
Yeah, I want to rewatch it, but I just remember listening to the guy talk, he's just a very, just
slice of life,
eccentric guy, and, I think that he really got those mannerisms, at least, even if the accent, I could nitpick, and I'm sure
it's not authentic.
It works fine enough. That wasn't what bothered me when he was speaking in English. I was like, well, the guy's English accent is rough, and it does kind of sound like a laughable impersonation to some extent. But when he was speaking French, I was like, oh, that's rough. I see that you're trying, but ooh, that's rough.
You're a very slim percent of the viewership for this film that actually knows French.
In America.
Yeah, well...
There's a whole international audience out there that's going to see this movie.
It's
especially in France.
For them. It's going to be dubbed for them. And
they can also watch... you get the choice there.
You get the choice?
Yeah, that you get it subtitled or you get it dubbed, depending on what theater you go to.
For most people, I mean, the French population is still pretty small compared to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Most people in the world, they're not going to know the difference. And I thought they did some cool stuff with the language barrier where it was like, can you speak in English?
Okay,
please?
You know what?
We're going to America.
I was trying not to laugh. Then I try to remember, it seems like an idea that this guy would have in real life,
totally,
but then it's also the funniest screenwriting cheat ever. Of
right? Let's get rid of the subtitles.
Yeah, we're French. Let's try to be true to that, but. Can we speak English? Because this movie's made by Americans, and they got to watch. I mean,
it was a co-production. It was I think it was French, Chinese. It looked like Czech and American. There was a French unit. Because I don't know if they actually shot in Paris, but when we were looking at the titles, I think credits.
Aside from JGL, I think those were actual French actors.
Can't believe you can go up there and walk, dude. That'd be so high.
I love how they got rid of him, too. It's like, what? We don't need you. You can just go.
Yeah, well, I mean, this movie really didn't need comic humor, considering that JGL's performance, even though it doesn't mean to be, is pretty comical. Just in the way Pierre Petit, his mannerisms and the way he explains things and how crazy he is and, just juggling and all that stuff. It's whimsical enough that you don't really need someone to be the butt of the joke for a couple scenes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I don't know. There were some off-putting characters. I don't know, what's his name? God, I'm blanking out. Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. You
didn't like him?
No. I didn't. It's not that. It's just I don't know. It does. I think this movie, especially the first half, when people say they have problems with it narratively, it's not really what they expect because it's really kind of weird and quirky.
Yeah, it does the Tomorrowland thing a little bit.
Oh, I much more. It feels weirder than that, but
because it's like I said, they tried to recapture the documentary.
I do think it definitely captures the guy's optimism and just naivety, that it works. I think that's what the criticism is mainly directed towards, and it was an interesting way of telling the story that I feel it works, but it's definitely not something that works in the sense of a traditional biopic.
It's also not something that really works for a spectacle. Like, you don't want an experience like such as this. You don't really want someone kind of holding your hand through this story. I feel like this movie isn't necessarily an adaptation of his memoir, but more so an adaptation of the documentary, which makes me really hope that the same isn't true for the Edward Snowden movie, who's also on Twitter now, who has like 1.6 million followers already. Because it definitely did. Like, the way it started, the breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, you told me that. Like, I haven't seen the documentary in forever, so I don't remember if that's how it opened. But
I'm pretty sure it's the exact same opening monologue, like verbatim. I'm pretty sure they just took the transcript and that was the script, which isn't a bad thing, especially if you haven't seen the documentary, which is a good amount of people, even though it won Best Picture or Best Documentary Feature. But for someone like me who's only seen half of it, but then again, I'm not the average film goer. I felt cheated. I paid, a premium ticket price for this, and I basically, for most of the movie, until there was some actual action going on, could have just watched the documentary again. I didn't feel most of the performances were that great. I thought JGL was solid, but he's not going to be nominated for any awards for this. Maybe a Golden Globe for Best Comedy Musical.
I mean, no, it's not. I wouldn't say it's Oscar quality. I mean, but I really did have fun with it. I think, for what I expected it to be, just as a spectacle, it delivered. And when it came to just going out on that wire, I felt it absolutely was. It was pretty insane, and that's even knowing what was going to happen. But I do. There's a lot of really, we haven't talked about this, but there's actually a lot of really nice visual flourishes that Zemeckis puts in.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff.
Yeah, that
with In the Wind and
just showing his perspective on, or his crossing with his imagination, I guess, at that point.
Like we mentioned, I think it was the first thing I said when the movie ended. Like, this is better than Flight. There's no doubt about that. Like, this is a much stronger movie. It doesn't compare with the rest of his filmography, like pre-Polar Express stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's still a pretty good movie. I mean, it is, like you said, like it is pretty intense. It's a good adventure. It's not pedestrian. Like, it is a good time. It's just, I haven't seen The Martian yet, but just from what I know about it, I would say that that's worth your money more.
For different reasons, I'd say this, as far as just a big screen theatrical experience, especially in IMAX, I think when it comes down to the walk, this is that's the reason to see this movie. I don't imagine it really holding up if I were to stream it on Netflix or rent it from Redbox. It's really just it's a spectacle. You go see it for that, and I think what will be awesome about it is that a lot of the people that are going to go see it
haven't seen the documentary.
And they have Netflix most likely, so that'll get more people to watch that, and that's nothing but great, I think. So
see, that's what I meant last night when I said I wouldn't be surprised if Pierre Petit gets late night show interviews for the next couple of weeks or so, because it would make sense. I can see Jim Kimmel doing it. So people love your movie. Well, not your movie. You already won an Oscar, but and then see my movie is on the Netflix. I can see it happening. I hope it happens. I hope it's not JGL doing the interviews. He most definitely will be.
Well, he's got to promote his movie. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking that'll be awesome if they actually land a interview with Petit.
Imagine if they did a twofer. They got both of them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, apparently though, Petit was a consultant on the movie. He actually did help JGL learn how to walk a wire in real life.
Yeah, I'm sure he did the 3 foot off the ground park stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, so that's I do think that's cool.
It didn't blow me away. This wasn't Gravity. This wasn't Avatar. It was a good experience. The 3D didn't look bad. The 2 towers looked great. I think my biggest problem with this film, and we already talked about this too, not on here, but with how close this movie was released to September 11th, and the fact that those two towers are a very pivotal part of the entire film, and basically the reason it exists, I felt kind of not cheated, but I felt like they didn't truly respect them by, I don't know, some kind of flourish in the camera,
I
or
highly
some kind of
disagree with that.
like the story of these towers will make them live on, and like there's that line towards the end where the guy who kind of looks like Jeff Goldblum in the '90s with the curly mustache says he's like people are keep on talking about this. It's like you gave a soul to those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
That's the closest you get to like the terrorists didn't win moment.
You know what? I mean, this is how I feel. I don't mind spoiling this because, you know what?
It's a true story.
Yeah, real life, who cares? But I thought it was great that I did not want them to mention it at all whatsoever. And you know what? I think that they indirectly at least hint at it. You know exactly what they're getting at, but the way that it fades out just with that final image just highlighting the towers themselves, it's almost... It might seem pretentious to say, but it's almost like they're in heaven now on their own, or and I thought that was
especially with the last line of dialogue and then that shot.
Yeah, and I think it's something along the lines of like, well, you know what, this is to bring up Kevin Smith in this. I just remember there was an evening where he got a lot of shit for just talking shit on Christopher Reeve being in a wheelchair, and people were like, "Oh, what the hell's the matter with you?" Oh, right, because he's in a wheelchair, right?
He has the best Superman disguise now ever.
But then he bounced back from that, and he's like, "Yeah, but I don't have a problem with that because see, in my heart, Superman still lives." I think that it's something.
A script called Superman Lives, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
But anyway, the point I'm getting at is that that's just the first thing that came to mind in the ending. Is like, oh well, in my heart, the World Trade Center still lives.
Sorta.
A weird way to get to that. I'm sorry if that didn't make any sense, but yeah,
no, it makes sense. It's just
that's how I feel about it. Like
this film kind of acts as a lasting memory and a memorial, because up until this film, the only real powerful images we have are like that original first Spider-Man movie trailer that no one in the world saw really, unless you find it on YouTube, and just like background images in various films, but it's not. Or I mean, I guess you could count the 9/11 films as well, like Flight 93 and World Trade Center and those kind of films. But those are more like the Hallmark type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe like them recreating them in CG and having them plastered throughout the film and kind of being what it's about. Not them in particular, but basically is a lasting memorial of its own, because it's like forever on film basically, even though it's digital.
I mean, they look really good, even though
it did look really good.
If you really look at it closely, you can nitpick, but I think they really did a good job with it.
Not worth $1 for me. Not a bad way. It wasn't a waste of money. It was a good experience, more so going to the theater and getting the fancy projection with the nice glasses and being in Hollywood. But maybe you'll have better luck, especially if you haven't seen the documentary.
Yeah, I'd say, watch this in the biggest screen possible, especially if you are close to LA, then go to the Chinese, because, if you want to watch it on digital IMAX projectors, it's probably one of the best ones you'll get, since the other ones are still crap. We're still waiting for that rollout for 4K laser to hit everywhere else.
It'll happen after Star Wars. Remember, they have a 1 month stay in all IMAX theaters after release. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing it's going to happen right around that time frame.
Well, let's hope so.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's been a pleasure. If you enjoyed it, you can find updates and when episodes go live on Facebook and Twitter at Dollar Reviews. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate the films I watch on an almost daily basis, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at letterboxd.com. My username is also S_MTX. There I log everything I watch and sometimes write brief reviews.
If you'd like to contribute some talking points, maybe send us a film or two that you'd like for us to review, or just some feedback of any sort, you can do so by sending us an email to $.review@gmail.com.
And if you want to hear more of us, you can find our entire archive at $reviewspodcast.wordpress.com. We're also on iTunes, where you can download episodes and listen to us anywhere, and you can also hear us on SoundCloud and TuneIn Radio just by searching $Reviews.
Until next time, keep the change.